starts jumping on. So I'll just wait for about 5 minutes, or hopefully not 5 minutes. Hopefully everyone will jump on pretty soon, and then we can get started. Okay, and for those of you who are jumping on, it's so cool to see you. Can you please let me know, say hi, let me know where you are tuning in from. And oh, Emma, hi, Diane. It's so cool that you guys are clicking the link so I can see your names. So if you haven't clicked the link to join, please go out, click the link and come back in again so I can see your names. It's just so lovely for me to see your name. So if you ask a great question, I can personally answer it. So lovely to see you all. I hope you've had such a wonderful day. I love Sundays. Sundays are kind of my tap out time. We always do like a family get together day, and it's always out in nature. And it just totally recharges me. I've got a bit of sun though. I've got my winter skin on, and it was quite warm and beautifully and sunny today. So hopefully my vitamin D levels have absolutely maxed out by spending so much time out in the sun. Oh, Diane, sending you all my love being down there in Melbourne. I hope you guys are going okay. Bridget, you're in Coolum. Well, hello. I'm not too far away from you at all, so that's awesome. Hi, Maxine from the UK. It's lovely, lovely to see you there. So everyone's slowly starting to join on, which is wonderful. All right, well, let's kick on. So, Emma, you're in Toowoomba. Yeah, it was warm. It was warm, but I must say, I'm very, very lucky. You know, we had a surf and with the kids, and I only really needed to have a rashie on. They didn't even have a wetsuit. And then we went for a walk around the Noosa headland. It was just such a lovely day. Hello, there's someone dialing in from Sydney. I'm thinking of you all down there. It's been such a long journey for you. I hope you're going okay. And Lena from Brisbane, I bet it was hot there too, Lena. Hi, Robin. It's lovely to see you there from Perth. I think you guys are behind us, so it's probably a lovely time for you around about 6 o'clock. All right, so let's kick off whilst we've got everyone just jumping on. So tonight, I can't believe we're up to live number 3. It's amazing. So this is the fun stuff tonight. This is where we can dive in and talk about how do we apply what we've learned in the last 2 lives to aim and strive for that goal of being joyfully resilient. So when we have had struggles with mental health and when we've got gut issues, we want to get to that end game of being resilient. So life throws curveballs. It never at any time is life easy, or is it going to be cruisy, or never at any time do we suddenly go, oh, everything is cool. Everything's settled. There's always going to be something that throws a curveball. And so the aim of balancing our gut and the aim of balancing our neurotransmitters, supporting our brain, getting everything in, set in stone, is to make sure that whatever we come across, we can be joyfully resilient. So that's what we're going to go through tonight. So I'm going to unpack some, all these sort of hacks and things that you can do. So make sure that you've got your pen and paper ready so you can write all these great tips down. Oh, there's more people jumping on from Gold Coast, and hello there from Central Queensland. It's awesome to see you all tonight. Okay, so before we get started, I have a few announcements to make because we're, sort of halfway through our 10-day workshop, and I just want to keep you all updated. So make sure that you've got in your diary for tomorrow the live Q&A at 1:30. Now that's Brisbane time, Australian Eastern Standard Time. So that is the time for you to absolutely jump on, ask me any questions. I have nothing planned for the live Q&A. So it's all about whatever you write in that chat box, I will respond to. And of course, whatever I can't get to in the allocated time, then I'll either do another live, or Elisa or Alicia or Ange, someone will be on to answer your questions as well. So make the most of that. Now, if you can't make the live Q&A tomorrow at 1:30, which many of you may be working or you can't make it, when you watch the replay, please still put your question in there and then tag us, and we'll come back in and answer it. And I'll certainly be looking, and if there's some themes or something going on, I'll pop on and do another live for that as well. So, Kapunda and Barossa Valley. So some of you may or may not know, I am a South Australian girl, so I know that area very well, the Barossa Valley. Okay, so that's number one. So we've got the live Q&A tomorrow, so please don't miss out on that. The next public announcement is we started our 3 for 2 culture sale today. So please make sure that if you are looking at grabbing some cultures, it's a great opportunity. It's obviously you get 3 cultures for the price of 2. So make sure you jump on and grab that, and there'll be links and all sorts for you to go through and purchase that. Now, the next one is our intake for our October Cultured Wellness programs. The next intake starts on the 25th of October. So make sure you mark that in your calendar to get ready for that next intake. Now, this is the intake that we're doing our community circles, which I'm so excited about. So there is only room for 5 community circles. So there's only room for a small intake. Now, the reason why we've done that is because it's extremely personalized, and I will be doing a lot of the community circles, and there's only so many hours in my calendar. So make sure that you put that in your diary as well, that we start on the 25th of October. And if you want to join this intake to do those community circles, make sure that you let us know, you book a discovery call, you start chatting with us, because there's only a very small amount of space for this intake because of we're doing these community circles. All right, and the other one, the final announcement, is our Christmas cooking classes, which are so much fun. They start on the same week as the intake for our community circles and our program starts. So the first cooking class is on Thursday, the 21st of October at 11 o'clock. And so I'm going to guide you through how to make shortbread, all those beautiful ginger Christmas shortbreads and trifles, and how to do your turkey with the stuffing, to do it gluten-free and without the carbs and the sugars. And it's just so much fun. So make sure that you mark that in your calendar too, because that's starting on the same week. Alrighty, so that's all the public announcements. I think I've covered everything off. And the other one is how amazing is that it's World Mental Health Day today. Now, certainly when we booked our dates to do these lives, we didn't realize that it was going to be World Mental Health Day at the same time as one of our lives. So I just love the synergy of that, and the fact that here we are talking about being resilient, balancing our mental health, and it's being honored today all around the world for World Mental Health Day. So it's really cool. How's that for kind of bringing it all in together? Okay. Okay, Diane, I'll get back to those questions, and then someone else has asked about the community circles. So I'll get back to those questions as well. Alrighty. Okay, so let's get started. The first thing that I want to talk about is that I constantly get, and this is fair enough because it's exactly the same things that went through my mind over and over and over again. It was like this, constant feedback loop in my mind, was when you want to change your mental health, when you want to get to that joyfully resilient, when you want to be able to reshape your life and find a new way, there's a lot of feedback within our minds. We've got that kind of, voice in our heads that says, I can't do that. Or how long will it take? How long will it take for me to go back to, my normal life? And, these kinds of conversations in our head about no one will support me. and it's too big of a change. And so, we see at Culture Wellness in our clinic, we see that all the time. We hear that all the time. And all of us at Culture Wellness have been through that journey. So we've all had these thoughts in our minds, and holy smokes, I've had it a lot. Like, how can I make those changes? And I'm going to talk about a lot of these changes tonight, and it's going to probably feel a little bit overwhelming, and it might feel a little bit, how would I possibly do that? I can't change. What am I going to do? So I wanted to, from the get-go, I wanted to say right before we even started that you can do it and you can make those changes. And it is just about taking that first step and making one change at a time. So I have been on this adventure and on this journey for probably about 15 to 20 years. So I went gluten-free around about 20 years ago, probably a little bit longer. That was my first step. And then I went dairy-free except for butter after that. Then I started investigating about fructose sugars and what they were doing in my gut. And I slowly made change. And so I don't want you guys to listen to all these things I'm going to talk about tonight and think, oh, I can't do that. That's not possible. And think about, how I've implemented all of these things and how other people have done it, and have that expectation in your mind that it needs to happen instantly and overnight, and have that expectation that if I can't do it straight away and I can't do it perfectly, well, then there's no point in doing it at all. So, that's not the case. And we're really here to support you with that. But I can understand, and I want to acknowledge, and I want to sit in that space for a little bit with you, because I can understand that it's really, really, really hard. The next thing that I wanted to flag and highlight is the fact that when you make great change, you never want to go back to where you were before or what we deem as normal. Once you feel well, and once you feel resilient, and once you've got brain clarity, and once you've got energy, you never want to go back. So I do get asked all the time, oh, how long will this take? How long will it take for me to get back to, eating a normal diet and getting back to normal life? And all I can say is the exciting thing about that is you never go back to where you were before. Because remember, where you are now, if you're struggling or if you've got struggles, where you are now is not working. And so you've got to make a change, and you don't want to go back there. And so you only want to progress forward. You only want to make great changes step by step. And so if you've got that thought process in your head of, how long will it take? Or maybe I'll only do this for, maybe I'll go gluten-free for 6 weeks and then I'll go back, or maybe I'll do a detox and then, I can, get ready for Christmas and all this kind of stuff. And, that it doesn't sort of work that way, because we all end up back in the same place that we were before if we don't make those changes. And also making changes and eating foods that nourish you, you don't ever want to go back, and you don't want to go back. You don't crave those old foods. You're not bound by those old foods. You're not a slave to them. You're not constantly thinking about where's the next thing that I'm going to go. You're not constantly thinking about your next meal, your next sugar hit, all those sorts of things. So I just wanted to lay that out from the start, because it's really big. It's really, really big. And I suppose the other thing is that I want to be able to inspire you and give you hope around this: no one gets me, no one supports me, because that's really big. I mean, it's easier now to go gluten-free. I mean, when I went gluten-free, you couldn't go into a restaurant or a cafe and it would have the little G with a circle around it to tell you what was gluten-free. You couldn't go into the supermarket and get a packet that said gluten-free on it. You would possibly find that in the health food store. So, it's completely different now. So there is change, and people are more aware and across it. But you would be surprised. You will get questions, and you may get roadblocks from the people around you. Are they going to support me? Are they going to understand that I want to make changes? How are my friends going to feel if I turn up and say, look, I don't want to have a glass of wine tonight? These are all really, really big things. But I really want to inspire you to, to know that generally what we see and what happens, and we see this all the time. Obviously, we work with, hundreds and hundreds of people. We see this all the time, that you end up making such great change and you end up feeling so much better that people start to become inspired by what you're doing, and they start to kind of look up and go, what's going on over there? She's just rocking life. She's feeling awesome. She's got more energy. She's feeling better, kicking goals, making big changes, skin's glowing, all that kind of stuff. And you end up becoming a bit of an inspiration, and you end up becoming a role model for people, and they stop questioning, and then they start to turn around and ask, so, what did you do? And could you help me? I want to learn how to ferment. Or have you got any tips about what I could do? And you just would not believe it. But it takes time and being resilient and all of those sorts of things. So I always tell this story. So some of you who have heard this, I'm just going to tell it again, but I always tell this story about this watershed moment that I had camping with my family. And my brother was there, and my parents were there, and my nieces, and, we were all there. And my brother just said, you should just let loose. And, you've become so interested in this space, and you just, I can't understand why you don't just, eat the cheesecake with us. And, my brother really just couldn't get it. And it was becoming a bit of a divide. And I was getting really concerned about it. And I was trying to, remain present and understanding how to work through this, and what kind of language do you need, and how do I communicate with him. And I learned a lot about it was his fears, because my brother's totally addicted to, well, not so much anymore, but back then completely addicted to sugar, completely. And it was a lot of his fears that he couldn't, share that moment with me of being addicted to sugar, or, going out for food, crazy foods that we would eat and so forth. And sure enough, it's been fascinating to watch him watch our family and see myself change so much, and just completely pain-free and really cognitively switched on and very balanced. And obviously see my son Noah just completely skyrocket into another place. And not only did my brother stop questioning, he started asking. And then his wife started asking. And then suddenly it was like, what's this thing called cultured wellness that you guys are doing? And then sure enough, he starts working for cultured wellness. And then sure enough, they start fermenting. And now when I go over to their house, they're making food out of the Culture Wellness Guttalicious cookbook. There's always something fermenting. I've always got dates fermenting for making bliss balls, or there's a yogurt on the go. I don't even have to worry anymore now when I go to their house about, do I need to double check about, what's for dinner or anything, because we've just all come into the same path, and the same with my parents. So it's taken time, and it's taken just, using great language and working together. And that's certainly something that I teach a lot of our culture wellness patients and people on program, and certainly what's going to be really important in the community circles that we're going to be doing in the program coming up in our October intake, is about how do we talk to our loved ones and get them on board, as opposed to having them, sort of butt up against us and have this moment in time. So I just wanted to tell you that. All right, so let's get into it. Tonight, I am going to talk about lifestyle. So I'm going to give you some cool tips on what you can do for your lifestyle to make sure that you can find that balance and that being joyfully resilient. I'm going to talk about detox tools. Really, really, really important. So I'm going to go through them. I'm going to, of course, cover off, what do we eat? What are we going to nourish our bodies with? What is a day in a life of eating a beautiful diet that nourishes our body to find awesome mental health. I'm going to talk about those regular barometers that we have. They're really important to measure and to check. And I'm, of course, going to talk about testing a little bit more and so forth. So let's kick off. Emma, that's how you felt when you removed dairy from your diet for my breastfed son. Oh, I know, Emma. It's a tricky time, hey? But we hang in there, we use language, and we get there. And we hang out in spaces like this as a crew together where we can share those experiences and we know that we can be supported by each other. Okay, so let's delve into lifestyle. To find that balanced mental health, there needs to be changes in your lifestyle. You cannot continue doing what you're doing because we need to be able to make great changes that are going to support our mental health. So the first thing is sleep. Sleep is your superpower. It's a non-negotiable, and we need to focus on our sleep. There is a plethora of research out there about going to bed around that 9:30 time, and to make sure that we can get all of our beautiful restorative patterns in our body. So even for hormone health, we know that going to bed after 11 o'clock interrupts our hormone balance. We know that going to bed after 12 o'clock interrupts our REM sleep. Now, our REM sleep is where we consolidate what's happened in the day and we consolidate our learning so we can kind of file it away and we can recall it at another time. So I'm not wearing it tonight, actually, but I have this cool ring called an Aura ring. And with my Aura ring, I think I told you about it in live number 2, I can measure how my sleep is. And so I can measure how my REM sleep is. And when I first got that Aura ring, my REM sleep was crap. And that was the reason why I got the ring, because I knew my sleep. I was getting enough, but it wasn't restorative, and I was still not consolidating my memory and my learning and those sorts of things. So sleep is a priority, and it's got to be consistent. You can't bank it on one night of getting 12 hours sleep and then going back to having 4 or 6 hours sleep on the other nights. It doesn't work like that. So we've got to focus on our sleep every single night. And certainly when your body is healing, it's not the time to have late nights and, late Saturday nights and staying up watching Netflix. It doesn't work like that. So if our body doesn't heal, if we don't get that restorative sleep, our body can't clean up. It can't turn our nervous system off. And we've talked about that a lot in live number 1. And we just can't move forward. So sleep has to be a priority, and going to bed at around 9:30 in the literature shows that is where we get the most restorative sleep. So got to work on that. It's got to be your absolute number 1 priority. To be able to go to sleep, we need to focus on our sleep hygiene. And so we don't have our phones on in our rooms next to our bed. We don't have, 10 minutes or in bed looking at our phone, scrolling through. It's really, really interesting about the research when it comes to especially Instagram or anything actually that scrolls like this. It moves our eyes up and down instead of when we read, our eyes go in unison across. So if we read a book, it actually puts us to sleep with our eyes going across the page. When we scroll like that, it stimulates a dopamine response. Now, I know that dopamine is our motivation and it's, helps us to find reward, but stimulating too much dopamine means we have a massive burst of it, and everything, what goes up must come down. And once we've finished scrolling and we've had that dopamine reward hit, after we've turned it off, you either wake up the next morning or an hour later when you haven't looked at your phone, you get that dip and you have to go back and scroll on your phone to get your hit. The research is really scary about scrolling on phones and dopamine and neurotransmitters and mental health. There is some researchers that say it's going to be, this big thing that we're going to have to really crawl back from when it comes to addictions, sleep problems, insomnia, learning and development for kids. So let's be really mindful about the time we spend on our phone, and certainly don't look at your phone in bed. Don't scroll your phone in bed. And like in our family, not so much for the adults, but certainly for the kids, when the sun goes down, the tech goes down. And so that means that screens are off and we're moving into setting out for sleep time. We need that melatonin hormone, which is our sleep hormone, to kick in. If we're going to have a, Saturday night movie with the kids, or if I'm going to watch something on TV or be on the screens like this at night, make sure that we're wearing our blue blocker glasses. So the kids wear them, my husband wears them. So we ensure that it doesn't interrupt our sleep. But even still, for me, I've got to turn off the screens. I've got to have time between when I finish screen time and when I go to bed. So a really good barometer is 8 o'clock. Turn off the screens, turn off the phones, turn everything off at 8 o'clock, and allow your body to settle and get rested and ready to go. If you're lucky enough to have a sauna, it's a great time to do a sauna at that time of night. Or reading is a really good thing to do. Doing some meditation, doing some light stretching, cooking, just sitting, sharing with your partner, journaling, all those sorts of things are really, really important. Sandra, interesting that you are a shift worker. So I have lived with a shift worker. My husband's a shift worker. So I've lived with a shift worker for many, many years. The most important thing as a shift worker is to reset your circadian rhythms very quickly. So your circadian rhythm technically should follow the sun coming up and the sun going down. So we should follow nature's rhythms. So if you are a shift worker, it's very, very important to follow those circadian rhythms still. So when the sun comes up, make sure that you're there and that you can see the sun in the morning. And then when you finish your shift at night, don't scroll on screens, and then don't eat at night. It totally screws up your digestion. So if you're working a night shift, just drink broth, fast through the night, have a big meal in the morning, make sure that you're getting that daylight, and then have your sleep. Keep everything really dark, and work on your digestion. No sugar at all. It's really, really important. That will be really hard to start with because you probably rely on sugar to stay awake. So it takes some time to get over that. But make sure that you are setting those circadian rhythms, so that morning light out in the sun. It's really, really, really important. Okay, how do the blue blocker glasses work for those of us who wear reading glasses? Yes, you can have the blue block emitting, or the blue blocker, put into your prescription reading glasses. So you can go and get that at, your optometrist. They all do it now. So you just need to ask for it. Okay, so stop the scrolling. Get off your technology. If you can't sleep, that's the first thing that will stop that. It'll wake you up in the middle of the night, and it will cause a lot of insomnia. It will cause a lot of the racing thoughts. It won't help you to get settled. So the screen time, it's got to go. And most people are addicted. So don't be surprised if you find it really hard to do that to start with. We have to really support our clients on program about how to have strategies to do that. And then, make sure that the Netflix goes off and there's no binge watching and all of that kind of stuff. Okay. The other thing is Apple Watches, Fitbits, anything that is connected to your phone, that it's got to go. It is so stimulating to your body. So if you think about it, our Apple Watch or our phone is emitting radiation. It's emitting electromagnetic fields. And so that is going to interrupt with your own body's frequency. And I'll get to that in a minute. So if you have an Apple Watch on and it's not in airplane mode, then that means that there is an electromagnetic field that you are wearing that is coming in from a mobile phone tower or from a 4G tower or 5G tower that you're actually wearing on your body. So put it in airplane mode, or better yet, just sell it on to someone else. But Fitbits, Apple Watches, keep your phone in airplane mode if you're carrying it on you. All of these things stimulate your nervous system and therefore can impact your digestion, impact your sleep, impact all of your nervous system. And so be mindful, what's your body cued into? If you can, hardwire everything in your house. So turn off the Wi-Fi, have the blue cords, hardwire everything, so you're not stimulated by that Wi-Fi. Absolutely, as a must, before you go to bed at night, turn your Wi-Fi off so you're not being stimulated by that electromagnetic fields, and that when you go to sleep, your body can settle into that nice deep sleep. So really have a look at what's stimulating you in your day. Lights, screens, EMF, all of those sorts of things, constant emails pinging at you. Turn off your notifications on your phone, all of those. The new backlit Kindles, I believe they are better. I haven't actually looked at one, but I believe that they're much, much better. And then if you're wearing your mobile phones, goodness me, if you're wearing your blue blocker glasses, then that's going to be much, much better. Okay, so no, Shirley, you can't receive phone calls if you are in airplane mode, but let me show you something really cool. I'm actually going to turn my camera, so hold tight. Can you see this? I've got my fan there because it's hot here. Look at my old school phone. So we have a phone in this house. And so I don't like talking on my mobile phone. I find that it impacts my thyroid. I always get a sore throat. I get ringing ears. I get a headache. I feel terrible when I talk on a mobile phone. So if I'm going to call someone, I'll use that phone there. They'll call in here. If I'm working on the computer, I have my computer hardwired, which means that it's connected into NBN via cables instead of Wi-Fi. And so people will send me messages on, Facebook, on Messenger or so forth. And I do a lot of calls through Zoom and actually talk to people. So no, but yes, airplane mode is off, and then I'll turn it on every sort of half an hour or so forth to check in. Okay. So yes, Diane, your husband goes nowhere without his Apple Watch and wears it to bed as he has a heart attack and stroke alert on it. All right. So there's different alerts that you can get, but obviously, Diane, that's going to be impacting you having that on there. But there are different alerts that you can get that don't require Wi-Fi. All right. So really do a assessment of how is your body being stimulated, and therefore your nervous system's up here on a daily basis, an hourly basis, a minute basis. There are lots of things. The other thing in your lifestyle that needs to change that impacts our gut microbiome so significantly is the makeup that we wear, the cleaning products that we use, and whatever we've got in our house and in our environment. Perfumes, cleaning products, the water we drink, all of these things have chemicals in them that interrupt our gut microbiome. They interrupt so many pathways within our body. Sorry, I've got a really itchy nose. So, for example, we know that there are certain chemicals that are endocrine disruptors, and therefore they really impact our hormone production and our hormone excretion. We know that some lipsticks have all sorts of toxic compounds and chemicals in them that can disrupt our gut microbiome. And most tap water has chlorine in it, and most tap water has antimicrobial effects in it to make sure it's safe for us to drink. But anything with chlorine in it is designed to kill off bacteria. And as I said, our bodies and our gut microbiome are made of bacteria. So if we're drinking tap water all day, not only does it have heavy metals in it, does it have all sorts of different toxic compounds in it, but the chlorine is directly impacting our gut microbiome. So getting some water filters is, getting a water filter is very important, including your shower and your bath. And you can get water filters for your shower, for your bath, for your tap. You can get all sorts of water filters. I really recommend the Zazen water filter for your drinking water. It not only takes out the nasties, but it also remineralizes the water to help with your hydration. And one of the team will put up, hopefully, if you're listening, the link to the water shop, which has got the coolest information on all the water filters, and including ones that you can put on your taps and so forth. So, the water that you drink can significantly impact your gut microbiome and therefore can impact your mental health. So I notice if I don't drink, Zazen water, and if I shower in a shower that's got chlorine in it, I notice it impacts my health significantly. So if you're not doing it, you won't notice it. So you got to make a change so you can start to notice these things. Someone said there, oh, thank you. Someone said I looked pretty tonight. Thank you. It's because I've been out on the beach and in the ocean all day. It does wonders. I've been making my own washing detergent and some cleaning products. Yay, go you. So the coolest, my friend Alex wrote this book, the Low Tox Life book, and she has the most incredible courses about going low toxin and, making your own cleaning products at home that, as that person said there, is just so super, super cheap and easy to make. So many cool things that you can do and really, really supports your health. Okay, so do a bit of an audit in your house and just go slow. So when you run out of your detergent to wash your dishes, replace it with a low tox one. When you run out of your washing detergent, just replace it with a low tox one. So you don't have to clear the decks, throw everything out and go out and spend a fortune. Just slowly make those changes so you're not exposed to chemicals and you're not exposed to different toxins that are going to cause problems. Okay, the next thing is to be able to find a routine and a pattern in your lifestyle where you're grounding back down to nature. Now, in the literature, they either call it grounding or they call it forest bathing. And basically what this whole concept and research is about our bodies tapping into the frequency of nature. All living things have a frequency. And so we want a certain frequency where our body and our cells have the highest level of health. When our frequency drops, it provides an opportunity for pathogens and disease and viruses to come into our body. That's what they are looking at. When you can measure frequency, it's not some woo-woo thing that you can't measure. There's a lot of science behind frequency. And interestingly, the rose, the beautiful flower, a rose, has the highest frequency. So that's why when you go and smell a rose, you feel different. It has an impact on how you're feeling. It increases your frequency. But in the research, the forest bathing, so the Japanese forest bathing, where they took a cohort of people out into the forest and they measured, how do they feel after they've been out into the forest? And there was a significant change in their feeling of well-being and their mental health. And we also have measured frequency from plants, frequency from the ocean, because they measure it in hertz. And they have these machines and they go out and measure all these different things, and they can measure pathogens as well. And so, being out in nature, no matter what it is, whether it's the beach, sitting under a tree, being out in the bushland in a national park, whatever you can get access to, being out in nature for a long period of time will increase your frequency. It'll ground you back down, so you won't get that sort of, racing thoughts and I've got to do this and I've got to do that, and that ruminating thoughts of just feeling completely overwhelmed. When you get out into nature, you ground back down. It's almost like it takes away all of that anxiety and overwhelm. It's phenomenal. It is absolutely phenomenal. For some people who are quite stimulated, and for some people who have a lot of racing thoughts and overwhelm and feel really, really, at the edge, it's going to take some time to be out in nature and to feel that nervous system drop. Your heart rate comes down. You just feel completely different. And so I know for me, like when I'm out in nature and when I'm grounded, after a good sort of 40 minutes to an hour, I feel completely different. But there's this cool thing called the 3-day effect. There's been some research on it. There's a really, really cool Audible mini series that you can listen to called the 3-day effect. And there's a lot of research about when you are out in nature, you get the biggest boost and the biggest change at the end of that 3rd day. So they have measured the waves. So we have like the delta and beta waves within our brain. And, we have waves that are this stress response of the frequency of how our brain works. And then we have the waves where our body is in that state of rest and digest. And so they've taken people out into nature and they have measured their brain waves on day 3. And it's just like a whole different ball game from day 1 and day 2 and before they set out on that experience to be out in nature. And so for some people, that 3-day, effect is just, absolutely groundbreaking for them, because it's the first time that they've been able to feel that sense of calm, that sense of peace, and that sense of feeling resilient and like you can do it. And so if you don't have that sense of peace and calm and you're running at 100 miles an hour, your heart rate's up, you're feeling anxious and overwhelmed, get out there. Now, don't expect that it's going to happen, but it will. Get into nature. It's cheap, doesn't cost anything. You can do it anytime you want. It is so, so important. And many people have put there about the garden, and totally, the garden is so important. And as Elisa's just said there, we get a lot of our microbes. So we take on a lot of our microbial community through the soil. So the soil tells us a lot about the health of our environment, the health of where we're living, and it can really help us. So grounding and frequency is very, very important, and making it a routine is really important. So on that, I've got here about routine, and we want to make sure that there is flow and that there's rhythm and routine in our day. So there's nothing worse if you're feeling overwhelmed and like there's too much going on if you don't have a routine. So, for me, I actually have time scheduled into my calendar when I exercise. Everyone knows about it. We always joke, the team at Culture Wellness know that, Monday morning and, till a certain time, that is the time that I go mountain bike riding with, my dear mountain biking buddy. And it's a non-negotiable. I'm not going to book anything in that time. I'm not going to be contactable. I'm not going to answer my phone. That's my time. I have other times where I book in to make sure I move my body. And there needs to be routines and structure. And your family members and the people around you also need to know your routine and structure so they can support you with that and they can help you with that so you can find that balance. Finding routine and structure about when you're going to add in the things that are going to calm you down. So if you're going to use meditation, if you're going to use a walk along the beach, journaling, a sauna, whatever it is, cooking, gardening, whatever that is, make sure that you schedule it in and it becomes your non-negotiable, because it's such an important thing to do. And then you find rhythm. And of course, not everything can be put into a routine, but set up a routine. It's just absolutely game changing. And so for some of our beautiful clients, we even work with them to go through and set up on their calendar a routine of, this is when I have my kefir, and this is when I'm going to have my bone broth, and this is the time that I'm going to sit down and do some meditation and have a beautiful cup of tea. And so you get a gentle reminder, you get a notification, and it tells you, come on, focus. This is your routine. This is how we're going to roll now. And so routine is very, very important. The other thing with regards to your lifestyle is that community and connection is absolutely paramount. Now, I know I've talked about this lots and lots of times, but it's really important to stay connected with community. A lot of it now needs to be online, and that's completely fine. We just want to make sure that we're connected and that we have a community of like-minded people where we feel inspired and we feel joyful. All right. Now, another thing is to move your body and to do some breath work. So we have Kylie, a beautiful programs manager here at Culture Wellness. She does Buteyko breathing courses. She's on sabbatical at the moment, but she does these incredible courses where it focuses on bringing your nervous system down, getting your body into that state of repair and state of calm by your breath. Is such a great, easy technique and tool that you can use. Just 3 incredible breaths where you can in for 4 and out for 4 breaths can drop your nervous system. Give it a try. So measure your heart rate. So if you're feeling overwhelmed and stressed, measure your heart rate. If it's over 70, your body is in a state of alarm, a state of fight or flight. And when you practice on that breath work, in for 4 and out for 4, breathing in through your nose and out through your nose, measure your heart rate again after you've done that for, say, 15 breaths. And you'll notice that it will come down under that 70. And just like that, you've popped yourself into that state of rest and digest. So you can do it anywhere, anytime. And I always joke with mums that when you're sitting in the car just about to go in and do like the school pickup, there's after school sports, there's, possibly a tantrum coming your way, there's homework, there's cooking dinner, like so much going on. If you can sit in your car just before you're about to pick up the kids and do your breath work and practice on that and bring your nervous system down, and just for that moment in time to have that space for your body to breathe, makes such a big difference. Such a big difference. Rachel, yes, you need routine and structure. You've got 2 little ones and you feel like you're running around like a headless chook. You need structure, Rachel, and more importantly, kids need structure. When I used to teach, it was just incredible having routines up on the board, giving kids structure so they know what's coming up next. Calms everyone down, especially in the household. So it's very, very important in your own home to have flow and rhythms. So, this is the time we do this in the day, and even having a little, replicating some of the great things that little kindergarten teachers do, having a special song that you put on to get ready for bed, having a bath time routine, all of those cues, whether it be smell or whether it be music or whether it be touch from a nice little massage, they're all the cues that our body knows that it's going to be okay and we can calm down. And so we can implement all of those things with our kids. They know what's coming up and everyone feels structured and calm and settled. All right. And the next thing about those lifestyle things is to just move, whatever that looks like for you. So if moving is just walking around the block, that's great. Just move. If moving is to go for a gentle walk or going for a run or lifting weights or doing HIIT training or playing sport, whatever it is, focus on moving and focus on moving multiple times a day. The research is really clear about the fact that, you can still have issues with your lymphatic system. You can have issues with your health if you train really, really, really hard for 1 hour a day, because for the rest of the time you're sitting, and we want to get away from sitting. We want to move, want to get some oxygen to that brain. We want our brain to feel inspired. We want our gut to get that digestive fire going. And so we can still have couch potato problems if we're training hard, if it's only for a day, an hour. So move, move, move. It's very, very important. Okay. Okay, that's a great question. I'm sorry, I can't see your name. It just says Facebook user. But that's such a great question about tips for getting stressed with routines and structure. I love that you've asked this. You tend to get more stress when things don't go to plan. So when they don't go to plan, that's exactly life. Nothing ever goes to plan. Nothing will ever go to plan. So first of all, it's finding that resilience. And so that a lot of that comes from your gut microbiome and from producing your GABA, producing your serotonin, from producing all those neurotransmitters that help to bring down your nervous system so you're feeling in control and you're feeling resilient. So the first thing to do is to work on your gut. No one can be all, flexible and, that didn't work out. Let's just try this. No one can be calm like that if we're not making our neurotransmitters, if our gut's not working. So the first thing is to focus on your gut. And then the second thing is to set that intention and start to tell our brain to be flexible and that things won't go to plan. And so if we don't use certain neurons in our brain, and if we don't use it, we lose it. And so we've got to kind of troubleshoot and trick our brain all the time to be able to grow and expand those neurons. And so when you're in a situation where it's like, this is not how it was supposed to go. I'm, supposed to be out the door at 8:30, and of course I need to now change my baby's nappy because they always do a poo when you're just about to leave the house. Give me a thumbs up if that happens to you guys. But of course that's what happens. And so in that moment, it's practicing your breath work and teaching you and telling your brain and setting a new neural pathway that that's okay and that you can be late. And no one's perfect and we need to roll with the punches. But our brain needs to practice that. We need to teach our brain and practice new thought patterns and new processes. So it is a bit tricky, but you get there. But you get there when you start working on your gut so you can build that resilience to then start teaching your brain. And then we need to get out of our amygdala state, which is that fear center in our brain, and move down into this executive function because nothing goes to plan. And so when we're sitting in our executive function part of the brain, which is our, logical, make plans, solve problems, when we sit in there instead of our fear state and our stressed state, if something doesn't go right, you're just like, oh yeah, okay, well, let's do this. This is plan B. And you just go on with plan B and make it happen. And so there's some tips for you, very important, but go to the gut. The gut's what's going to happen. All right. So there's some lifestyle tips for you. There's plenty more that we teach on the program, but hopefully they're a great start for you. They're all free. They're all really important to implement and just make one change per day. Okay, the next thing that is really, really important, which is, yes, again, your secret hidden weapon, is to implement detox tools into your daily life. So when our gut's not working, as I said before, if you've got pathogens in your gut, if you've got parasites, or if you've got bacterial overgrowths, they produce a truckload of toxins into your body. Those toxins make us sick, make us nauseous, make us stressed, and they increase our nervous system because they stress us out, and therefore we lose our resilience. Toxins, are really alarming to the body and our immune system and our nervous system. So it's really important that we implement detox tools in our life to bring down that toxic load in our body, and therefore not put so much stress on our nervous system, and so we can remain resilient. So the detox tools that we use on the Culture Wellness program is the activated charcoal, the bentonite clay, coffee enemas, and also the chlorella. And so we use these as a wonderful way of pulling out toxins and eliminating them from our bodies. So we've got a bundle on the Culture Wellness shop, which is our detox tools. And those detox tools you take sometimes twice a day or once a day, and we teach you this on program about when to take them. And what they do, so activated charcoal is the example, it actually binds to, sort of double its own weight. And so if you, like Candida, for example, in our gut, releases over 280 different types of toxins. So our liver has got to work through that. Our brain has to work through that. Our elimination pathways need to work properly. So if you have that charcoal, it binds it and it takes it out of the body. And so you can feel so much better and so much more resilient by implementing those detox tools. So, and another detox tool that I am such a huge fan of are infrared saunas. So I'm pretty fortunate. I have an infrared sauna in my house. I always joke about the amount of money that I would have saved on takeaways and alcohol, like going out and eating crap food and, all of that kind of stuff. I bought myself a sauna. So the sauna is a wonderful way of detoxifying, just such an incredible way. And of course now, once again, it wasn't the way back in the good old days. You couldn't go and get an infrared sauna, maybe in the city, in a like uber hipster cool suburb, possibly. But now there are so many places where you can go and book packages to go and get a sauna. It drops your nervous system. It supports your mitochondria, which gives you energy, and it helps to eliminate. We have multiple detox pathways in our body. We have our breath, our skin, we have our urine, and we have our stool, and we need to be constantly working on those pathways so we can eliminate. We're always exposed to things, and our body's detoxifying all the time, every day. It's not just when we go on a detox, our body is always detoxifying. So every day we should be supporting it to detoxify, not just, I'm going to go on like a, 2-week detoxification. That'll sort me out for the next year and so forth. It's a bit more complex than that. And so when you're going through your healing process, please use your detox tools. I've never seen anyone get through a gut healing program, doing cleanses, changing their diet, cutting out sugar. I've never seen anyone do it successfully without detox tools. It's not fair. You give up, you fail, then you feel like crap because you're nauseous and you get headaches. I think Lauren said activated charcoal gave you a headache. Was this due to the toxic process or not enough water? Yeah, so Lauren, it will definitely be due to your body, that charcoal pulling out those toxins, and yes, lots of water. And then once the charcoal has bound up all those toxins, you've got to eliminate it. So you've got to work hard on getting the fiber in to eliminate it out, possibly using a coffee enema or making sure that you're flushing it out, lots of vegetables, those sorts of things. But the detox tools are a must. They make such a big difference. And when there's so much to clean up in your gut, it's got to be your first priority. Okay, let's get on to diet. So this is kind of like, I just kind of want to circle back to that, the first conversation that I was sort of saying about, how long will this take? And, when do I get to go back to a normal diet? Like if, when people ask us about program, I get that asked all the time. And you want to reduce the inflammatory foods in your diet forever. Like you don't want to go back to inflammatory foods. You don't want to go back to toxic compounds. You don't want to go back to foods that have got chemicals in them and preservatives and, endocrine disruptors and things that impact your brain and all that kind of stuff. You don't want to go back to those foods. So when we think about a diet, the number one priority is to reduce inflammation and reduce chemicals and basically just eat what your grandparents would have grown and would have eaten. And so if you think about now, a good majority of the food that people eat, it didn't even exist in our grandparents' day. There was no such thing as barbecue shapes and Tim Tams, and there was no such thing as, all of these crazy foods, that fairy floss and lollies and snakes and like all the stuff that is available today, that just wasn't around in our grandparents' day. Yes, sugary food was definitely around. There was scones with jam and cream, and there was pavlovas, and there was all these sorts of things, but they were made from pure ingredients and they were assembled together. There wasn't a preservative 2,2-0 in there. There wasn't flavors. There wasn't coloring. There wasn't all of these different chemical compounds that make up the food. They are super toxic to our brain and super toxic to our gut microbiome, and therefore they stress our bodies out. Our bodies can't handle those foods. So we don't want to eat a diet that's full of processed foods and inflammatory foods. So it makes it really easy when you think about, would my grandparents have grown that? Would they have made it? What's the list of the ingredients? Are there any numbers? Are there any flavors? Are there any preservatives? Just keep it super, super simple. For most people with gut dysbiosis and with, extreme gut pain and for extreme mental health issues, I am a big, big fan of then going further into the ketogenic diet. And I really touched on this in live number 2. But the ketogenic diet is designed to bring down inflammation. And a brain that is struggling and when you're feeling overwhelmed, that is inflammation in the body. When you don't feel resilient, you're inflamed. And so a ketogenic diet will bring that anti-inflammatory response to the body and support you. And so when you do a therapeutic whole foods ketogenic diet, so not shakes and bacons and cheeses and all those sorts of things, when you do a beautiful whole foods ketogenic diet, then you're getting to this space of anti-inflammatory. So you cut the grains out, you cut out the processed foods, you cut out the processed meats, you cut out marinades, you cut out chips, you cut out all of those things, and you're left with proteins, you're left with good quality fats, with vegetables. We ferment the fruits. We can make, diversity doughs, and we can ferment out fibers that support our gut, but we bring the carbohydrates down and bring the sugars down. And so every single time you put something in your mouth, you want it to nourish and nurture you, not detract you. It takes a lot of work for our body to digest its food. It takes up to 500 mils of blood to rush to your digestive system to digest that meal. You don't want to waste that whole digestive process on something that's got no nutrients in it. There's no protein, there's no good quality fats, there's no nutrients in there. You don't want to waste all your resources in your body digesting something that isn't full of nutrients and, really beautiful vitamins for your body. So every time you eat, it should be a choice to nourish yourself. Pate is so amazing to support people with, iron deficiencies, which is significantly impacts mental health. Every time you have your fermented foods, you're creating probiotics for your gut. Every time you have some sauerkraut, for example, you're providing your body with high doses of vitamin C. I mean, we all know the story about the fact that Captain Cook never had scurvy on his voyages because he had sauerkraut and they had high doses of vitamin C, so they didn't get scurvy. So it's really, really important to make sure that you're nourishing yourself with beautiful food. Add in your fermented foods. And I will bang on about this until the cows come home because it's so important. A day in a life of someone on a ketogenic diet, you start out, you might have a bowl of yogurt for breakfast, and then you've already had some therapeutic probiotic foods that is good for your gut. And in that yogurt, you've got the Culture Wellness yogurt, you've got the coconut cream, which has got caprylic and lauric acid, which supports you to get into ketosis. It provides energy for your mitochondria, and it also is antimicrobial and antibacterial. And so it's just a bomb. It's just so good for you. So a cup of yogurt, done and dusted. You might have some eggs, some avocado, and some sauerkraut for breakfast. You might have a beautiful smoothie, and you might put some avocado and some cauliflower, avocado and cucumber, and then you might put some yogurt or some kefir in there, put some collagen for some protein and amino acids, and then you might add some cacao. Remember, I was saying the other night that cacao is incredible for providing food for your gut microbiome, and it supports dopamine. And then you might add in there any extra, maybe some lion's mane mushrooms for cognitive function for your brain. Give it a blitz up, and there's your breakfast. So you've already put a heap of probiotic foods, you've added a heap of nutrients, and you've only done it for breakfast. So for lunch, and remembering when you're on a ketogenic diet, you don't need to snack. So you're not a slave to this constant snacking all the time, and the sugar rush and the sugar dump, and the sugar rush and the sugar dump. You are balanced the whole day, and you're not fighting against this, whole sort of concept in your brain of, I feel hungry, but if I eat, then I'm going to, put on weight, or I feel hungry, but I don't know what to eat because I feel like I'm so intolerant to everything. I can't handle anything. When you're in a ketogenic diet, you just don't have any of those thoughts. You don't have any of those issues. You're not hungry. You're not inflamed. Your body doesn't blow up like a balloon. You don't have constipation and diarrhea and all those sorts of things. And so, you don't have those snacks, and then you get to lunch and you might have, a beautiful slow cooked meal, add some sauerkraut on the side. You might have a soup, and then you can have a glass of kefir to go with that. You might have some leftover meats that, you've roasted, for example, and then you've got your leftover vegetables from the night before, your roast vegetables. So it's really super easy. And then for dinner, it's a classic sort of protein and beautiful meats. And then we put out, did you guys see the banana and chocolate layered cheesecake recipe that's in the Guttalicious book? That recipe is so good. And it's got, fermented bananas. It's got macadamia nuts in there. It's got the yogurt. It's got everything. It's so good, and it's all layered up. It's full of nutrients. It's full of probiotics, and just such a beautiful way to nourish yourself. But awesome. We have often had that for breakfast in our family. Of course, it's got all the stuff that you want to have for breakfast. All right, so let me have a look at some of the questions here. I have a question. Let's have a look. I have a question about the ketogenic diet. When there are food intolerances to solve, I seem to be sensitive to nuts and have histamine issues at the moment. Rachel, that's a great question. So that's really common for pretty much everyone that comes and works with us on program. And so the therapeutic culture wellness ketogenic diet that we use, we don't incorporate nuts because they are extremely hard to digest. They've got phytic acid around them, so they can deplete the body of zinc and B6 stores. And most people can't digest them. And so they end up causing inflammation. And then when people have histamine issues, that histamine generally comes from overgrowth in the gut from, say, Clostridium or Biophilia wadsworthia, or from parasites. And when you go about making the changes to your diet, you get into ketosis, we work on the herbs for your gut, then that histamine level completely drops down because we've fixed the problem. And remember, the culture wellness cultures have histamine down-regulating strains, which means that when you have the culture wellness cultures, they actually support histamine issues and consume it and down-regulate it and improve your histamine issues. So adding in the fermented foods will improve that. So the ketogenic diet will be really, really, really supportive for you, Rachel, and it will get to the root cause of why you've got the food intolerances. And food intolerances are just leaky gut that hasn't been addressed. And then it will also help with those histamine issues. Okay. All right, what's the best culture food for babies? My little one is on her 7th cold this year. Aww. Her immune system is non-existent and would like to build it up naturally. Lots of bone broth, and the best food is the culture wellness yogurt. When you're looking at little ones, it's got the highest amount of bifidobacterium strains in there, and that's really important for immune function and really important for supporting the little gut to create the right environment where they can protect themselves. So the yogurt would be the best. Okay, so the best times to eat for keto is going to change for each person. So some people like to do a little bit of fasting in the morning and they might not have breakfast until 11. Other people who have got significant adrenal burnout and adrenal issues, they might eat a breakfast straight up at 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning. So it's a bit different for everyone. So it's a bit hard to answer that question. Okay, so does fermenting take out the sugars? It absolutely does. So that's the whole point, that we use a lot of the fermenting for the culture wellness ketogenic diet, is because you can add all the nutrients, you can add all the fibers, you can keep the color, you can keep the variety in there, but because you fermented it, you keep those sugars nice and low. So it's like the secret weapon. It's amazing, absolutely amazing. And we can do that as well with regards to the Culture Wellness Diversity Dough, which is a grain-free, so it's definitely gluten-free, but grain-free culture, like a sourdough. And then you can make your own breads and pizza breads and muffins and scrolls and everything. So that will reduce all the carbohydrates in the fibers, and it really, really helps. Okay. How do you manage eating meals at friends' houses? Great question. So first of all, it's all just about language and education with them. So of course, the first thing is, they're going to invite you over and you're going to have to just sort of heads up, I'm really wanting to support my mental health. And so I am, embarking on working on a ketogenic diet to solve my issues with my gut microbiome. So, thanks for the invite. What are you thinking of cooking? And so they might say, oh, we're going to do this, this, and this. And maybe say, oh, I'd love to come to your house, but maybe I could bring the dinner. Or can I bring a plate? Can I chip in and get involved? Or do you guys want to come over to my house? Because at the moment, I'm working on my gut. And so I've just got to be really focused on what I'm eating. So how about you guys come over and I can cook for you? And so, you know, everyone loves like a slow cooked lamb and you can have some cauliflower mash with it. You know, everyone, like there's so many things that you can cook, and the Gutalicious book is just the Bible when it comes to that. But it's just all about talking with your friends, creating the right environment to create that language and taking their fears away. And so they're like, oh my gosh, they're doing this gut work. I don't know what to feed them. So if you take that fear away of them not knowing or understanding how to help you, it just doesn't become an issue. So just invite people over, take a plate, and get started, and just don't see it as a roadblock at all. Everyone wants to support you. On program, though, I teach people a lot about language. So we never use language like, oh, I can't eat that, I'm on a program, because you can eat it. No one's stopping you. No one's like holding you to ransom saying, you can't eat that. It's your choice. But the language around that is, oh, I'm focusing on my gut health at the moment, so that's not going to serve me. That doesn't support my body at the moment, so I'm just going to leave that one for tonight. So there's all sorts of ways that we can talk about why we're doing something without putting up this roadblock of I can't do this, I can't do that. Because as soon as you say that to someone, they feel really bad for you. And then they start saying, oh, come on, just this one time. I don't want you to miss out. Oh, don't worry about it. You can get back onto it tomorrow. But when you say things like, I haven't been well, I need to focus on what I'm doing, and thank you for supporting me in this, and looking at it as a collaborative thing, working together with your friends, it completely changes it to I can't, I won't, and making it this limiting sort of thing. Okay, so the other thing is jump on the broth train. So make your broths, drink lots of broths. So I've talked a lot about intestinal permeability, and I've talked a lot about leaky gut. And broth is a great way to heal up that leaky gut and to support that intestinal lining. So we're on program. We want people when they can, having up to 5 cups of broth a day. We've got to get out of that broth the amino acids, glycine and proline, to be able to plug the holes, to be able to support that gut, to give us that nutrients and those minerals. So make sure you're doing your broths. The other thing is to focus on organic foods when possible. And when you can't, become familiar with the Clean 15 and the Dirty Dozen. And so the Clean 15 is the foods that, we really, really, really need to, the Dirty Dozen is, let me start there. I got a bit distracted. The Dirty Dozen are the foods that no matter what, it's best to be able to have them organic, because they might be like strawberries that when they're sprayed with preservatives and when they're sprayed with different chemicals and compounds, they leach and absorb those chemicals and compounds, which then interrupt our bodies and our mental health and our gut. And so those foods are non-negotiable. They're the foods that you want to make sure that you are buying organic if you can, as best you can, or at least wash them really well. And then there are other foods that if you can't find them organic, they're not as bad if you buy them and they're just spray free, or they don't absorb the chemicals anymore. It's not it's not going to be as damaging for you. So really get comfortable and have a look at all of those different lists when it comes to, like, the environmental work group are great for lists, and Elisa might pop some up now so you can have a look at them, about all the different foods, and focusing on maybe just the ones that you can do organic, that that are really have got those toxic compounds. Okay, goodness me, been banging on for so long, I'm going to run out of time. Hang on. Okay, the next thing is to make sure that you are constantly, regularly testing and getting your barometers for how your body is going. So, once again, just keep remembering, test, don't guess. Test your gut microbiome. See what is happening in there. Is it supporting your mental health, or is it actually making you stressed out and super inflamed? And no wonder you're feeling overwhelmed and stuff's going on. So do a stool test. Go and get your bloods done, and check in with the culture wellness team. Join on the program, and then we can support you about what bloods to get done, what testing to get done. We can also look at the oats test, for example, which actually tells us if you're creating dopamine, if you're creating serotonin. Look at these tests and then use them as your barometer to see your improvement and what you need to tweak and what you need to change. So it's really important to test, to have an action plan, to have routine and have structure, and then work with someone to support you. You cannot do this alone. You just can't. It's impossible to get all of the details all organized, to get the food right, to get the plans right, the detox tools right. You must work with someone to make sure that you can implement all these things. So the support is key. It's also really important to, when we've got people on program, we actually test ketones to see, are you in ketosis? Is your body in that anti-inflammatory response? We test blood sugar levels and to see, are your blood sugars high, and therefore your body is in that big state of alarm, that cortisol alarm, that stress response. And we even do pH testing, and you do all of this testing in your own home. We teach you how to do that. And then you can give up, then we obviously go through those results and what's going on, what can we improve, what's, better, what's worse, and so forth. And so all of those barometers and all that testing is going to help you to ensure that you can see change, because when you're going through all of this, it's hard sometimes to see change. So very, very important. Okay, Chrissy, when we did the broth, 3 of my family's eczema issues got really bad. We went on to low histamine diet for 4 weeks. I'd love to try it again, or best not to. So Chrissy, you've hit the nail on the head there. So the broth it's not about the histamine, and it's about the fact that people make changes and go on broth and do all these wonderful things. But if you haven't implemented the detox tools to mop up the changes that broth is making, that sometimes our situation and our condition gets worse. So remember that our skin is how we detox. Our skin is one of our major detox pathways. So if you are drinking lots of broth, it's actioning liver detoxification, it's supporting elimination, it's healing up that leaky gut. But the broth is amazing. It's providing nutrients. So if you speed up that detox, like the process of your body getting rid of stuff, if you don't have detox tools to mop it up and to get eliminated out of the body, it'll come out through the skin. And so then the eczema gets worse and things start to flare up. So it's why it's so important when you're making these changes to, have that routine and structure with regards to detox tools and the process of why to do it. So it's got nothing to do with the histamine, and it's got nothing to do with whether it was right or wrong for you, but it's about that mopping up and getting the process right. And then, of course, adding in the culture wellness yoga would have, at that time would have been really supportive, down-regulate the histamine. Once again, histamine is a compound that you can mop up with the charcoal and the clay. So you're also dragging that out of the body. So, Chrissy, absolutely do it again, but you need your detox tools and you need a pathway, and then, making sure that you've added in the fermented foods and stuff to give your body that focus and support. Okay. Alrighty. So here we are. we are at the end of, I've kept you for so long. I'm so sorry, everyone. So I just want to recap that, first of all, we went through those lifestyle changes that can really support your gut microbiome and your mental health to find that resilience. So we talked about sleep. We talked about screen time. We talked about all the devices that are out there these days that are really impacting our health. We talked about water, makeup, cleaning products. I talked about grounding and getting out in high frequency environments. I talked about routine and community connection, breath work and moving your body. I highlighted the detox tools and how important they are for your progression and for making a change for what's going on. And then talked about the diet and how important a ketogenic diet, fermented foods, getting on the broth, cutting out the inflammatory foods, just cut them out. It's a non-negotiable. They are really impacting your health. And when you're moving forward and wanting to make change, it's what needs to happen. But then I also talked about support and making sure that if that feels really difficult to you and it feels like it's going to be a challenge, get the support you need to make sure that you can achieve it and then it can be successful, because it's really, really hard and you want support to make it successful. And the other things that I talked about, for those of you who have joined on late, was the first thing is that we have a 3 for 2 culture sale on at the moment to celebrate the awareness of World Mental Health Day. So that means that you get 3 cultures for the price of 2, and you can freeze your cultures. So you can just get them out when needed, so you can stock up on those. I talked about the program intake starts on the 25th of October, and we only have a small amount of space for our community circles. So book a discovery call if you're not sure if you want to join program, or if you do, make sure you action that and get started, because we kick off soon. We've only got a small amount of time. We also talked about the cooking classes starting that same week on the 21st of October, which is very, very cool. And right back at the start of those questions, someone asked about the community circles. Sorry, I'm going to go right back around to that. So the Culture Wellness Program is a one-on-one program. It's very tailored and very, very specific. And that's what we do, is our sort of flagship program. But this intake that we're going to start on the 25th of October is incorporating community circles. And what that means is that you're going to go through the program in a group of like-minded people, and you're going to share your experiences together. And it means that I can then chime in and I can hold those groups, and I can really stay with people and support them. I don't get to see many people one-on-one anymore because my books are so full. So this is such a great opportunity for me to still coach and teach and guide people through their program in the community circles. But then our health coaches will still be working with everyone one-on-one to that tailored support, and obviously the naturopathic support and all of the consults that you get. And, there's a link there to go through and have a look and book a discovery call and all those sorts of things. But the community circles come out of this crazy space that we're in at the moment with our current environment. And there's a lot going on and we need to stay focused. And the community circles have come out of the fact that I still am so keen to connect with people in that group setting. And the other thing is we need to be together. We need to share our wins, and we need to grow together. So that's what those community circles are about. And thank you, Rachel. I miss teaching. It's my old career, and I've always loved it. I've taught from a very young age in outdoor sports, and then I lectured at university, and then went into teaching in schools, and I love it. So thank you. That's lovely of you to say. Okay, so much information. I'm glad you've taken notes. And for those of you who haven't taken notes, of course, this will be replayed and you can go back and look at it. If you go through the Cultured Wellness website and have a look at the blog posts, lots of the cool stuff that I talked about tonight, there will be a blog post about that. So there's a blog post on water, and there's a blog post on forest bathing and all of those kinds of things. So reach out, and there's a lot of information. So make sure that you have a look at the information. And then, of course, if it works for you and the time's right, when you join program, we have each week a module of truckloads of learning and videos and all sorts of stuff. So there's just more learning, always learning, always learning. Okay, so tomorrow, live Q&A. Get your questions ready. We'll put up a post that says, what questions do you want to ask? Or if you've got something burning right now that you want to ask me, just pop it up in the post, in the Facebook group, and I will make sure that I answer it tomorrow. So that's at 1:30. And then on, I think, Wednesday night, if you're still not sure about the Culture Wellness program, I'll do a live on Wednesday night and take you through inside the platform. It's so cool. It's the heaving machine of Culture Wellness. So I'll take you inside, show you around. I'll show you all the recipes that are in there. So what you would be cooking, which is really cool. So I'll guide you around there so you can have a look. I think that's everything. I'm so glad you joined, Mark, and that you enjoyed the information. And Emma, it's lovely to see you. Put in the smoothies. Yes, definitely. All right, everyone. I will see you tomorrow for the live Q&A, and all the best. And I'd love for you to share if you've implemented anything, share on the Facebook group, and keep me updated on how it's all going. Take care, everyone. Good night.